1, 2,
Standing
go.
by.
Everybody, you're listening to the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
And we are your hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in. And we are thrilled to bring back to the show a veteran guest, have to say at this point, fan favorite, Steve Bryant. Steve has been on the show many times in the past to talk about past projects he was involved with, like Athena, Voltaire, and The Catch. And this time around, he's here to talk about his Kickstarter for Evie and the Helsings. What if there was a member of the vampire hunting Van Helsing family that just wanted to rock? I guess that's what we're going to find out in that particular project. So, Steve, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. It's fun to be back. Thank you. Thank you.
So good to have you back. And we may as well just cut to the chase. Why don't you tell us about what Evie and the Helsings is about?
Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of encapsulated it. For generations, the Van Helsing family, has protected humanity from the things that go bump in the night. But when the last protector dies and the mantle goes to her child, it's her daughter, Evie, and Evie is in a band and does not want to take up the mantle. So it's kind of Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets This Is Spinal Tap by way of Ash versus Evil Dead. But yeah, I mean, the whole idea started just, I think Sci-Fi Channel had a Van Helsing show recently, and it was done recently, like within 5-8 years, I guess. But it was set as like a post-apocalyptic story. And I saw the commercials for that, and I just thought, man, it's all been done with this character. I want to see Evie Van Helsing is actually what I said, which led me to I should have sent it to you, but I have a file in my projects folder that's just the logo with the words Van Helsing in the Van Halen 2 logo, and that was the starting point for the project. And then when Eddie passed, it was, because prior to this, I thought this is the dumbest idea I've ever had, but I kind of love it. But then when Eddie passed, it seemed like it was in bad taste. So I sat this guy for a while.
And I have to ask you, because as you can see here, there's a lot of CDs behind me, so I hate music. In the past, there have been a lot of good rock and roll oriented comics. There have been some very good ones, whether it's Love and Rockets or Scott Pilgrim, fairly recent Black Canary series that DC had where Dinah was the leader of a group. In this particular project, you're the writer and Don Cardenas is the artist, and love to hear about some of his work too. Do you find that it's very difficult to write something music oriented, or was that not a challenge for you?
It's funny because it just kind of happened organically. So it wasn't that tough, but it's funny you mentioned Love and Rockets because I've been kind of re-immersing myself in the early Jaime stuff where he's doing everything with Hopi and the band. And I mean, yeah, that's the punk scene, and we're doing kind of some kind of riff on 80s hair metal, but in kind of a timeless modern day kind of environment. But yeah, there's so much energy in Jaime's Love and Rockets stuff that it's hard not to look at that and just feel, I don't know, the energy, for lack of a better term. I keep going back to that. But yeah, like from a writing point of view, I don't think that I do anything really complicated. Everything that I do really is always just about family, either by blood or found families. And when Don and I are talking about like the second story arc. It's great because he has all kinds of visual things that he wants to do. And I know when I'm writer Steve as opposed to artist Steve, everything for me is about character, and plot comes after that. It's like, where do I want the characters to go? How do I want them to interact? So everything else just kind of falls in place. Determining the dynamic of the band was the big thing. And once that's in place, yeah, I guess it wasn't hard. Boy, can I have a more roundabout answer to that?
Not a problem. And did you have a particular playlist that you had, either playing figuratively or actually in your head, of music that aligns with the characters you were writing?
No, Don was talking more about that than I was, and mostly because like when I'm writing, I don't really listen to a lot of vocal stuff. It's always
Hmm.
instrumental stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, that didn't really factor in a whole lot. I can't say that because I did listen to I was listening to a lot of John Carpenter scores at the time because it's kind of spooky and it's
Hmm.
got kind of the 80s vibe. And, if you listen to like the theme from In the Mouth of Madness, it's got guitars that go gunk, 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 which is perfect.
Well, I'm going to pass the interview baton over to Steve because I know he has a lot of questions for you. But I also have to say, as somebody that also recently revisited that very first Love and Rockets trade,
So
the almost tabloid size one, it really is like falling in love again. When
it
you
is.
revisit that.
So I'm
Well,
with
just
you.
while we're talking about Love and Rockets, shout out to that new box set that they produced here recently. That is just out. I don't have it, but I covet it. It is
Same.
pretty.
Okay, so
Coveted.
Steve, what do you
Much
have for
coveted.
Steve? Oh,
Well,
good for you.
Steve, as always, I very much appreciate other Steves.
As well you should, and as do I.
Yeah, Steves we're great. We're all pretty great.
Cut 'em off.
I love the the inspiration there, sort of like an Eddie Van Helsing, to start, and then I totally understand how the writer's process works, where sometimes you're just sort of like, okay, this is great, but I got to put it away for just a little bit, let it let it sit, and then have it come back. So for the way you've described it, sort of a Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Spinal Tap meets Ash versus Evil Dead. How much would you say is sort of the Evil Dead Buffy sort of supernatural side, and how much is the Spinal Tap, let's go for the fun band dynamic aspect of it?
It's about 50-50. It I really thought it would have a lot more over the top Ash versus Evil Dead, blood and gore, and just in a loving way, stupid qualities. And I love the movies, but you know what I mean, where it's just so Bruce Campbell just makes them. So
Almost a campy quality to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I really thought it was going to have that in there, but at one point I start to like fall in love with these characters and their motivations, and I do need to clarify one thing. It was mostly Dead, and then I reached out to Don, and I said, I've got this idea, because I thought Don would be the right person to draw it. And I said, I've got this idea, but I'm just not sure if it's in bad taste. And I said it. He seemed to really like the idea, but he said, well, why don't we just, gender swap the lead? Instead of Eddie, make it Edie. And then he added, or Evie. And boom, everything else fell into place there. And so, yeah, when we were talking about the band and stuff like that, he contributed a lot to like the backgrounds on them, because I had names and basic things laid out. And as he threw stuff in, I'm starting to see the band dynamic develop. And so from my perspective, it's really cool. And I feel like there's some fun reveals coming with some of that too.
Mm.
And
But
Don's also a bass player, right?
yeah, well, I think he also plays guitar too.
He plays guitar.
Recording a solo that he has to play at the end of the campaign while wearing spandex and a wig. Because we reached one of our stretch goals. But yeah, Don's a
yeah,
monster.
we definitely need that.
I describe myself as a recovering bass player, but Don is still actively a really good musician. So it's cool to have his input.
Awesome. Well, I just love the fact that both of you have a background, in rock, and really sort of embracing that musical history of yourselves and putting it into the book. I think that's really cool.
Hey, I
and
put it
you know,
all
and that's
online. I posted a picture of myself with long hair and a mullet when we
yeah.
reached our funding goal. So
Oh yeah. When I saw that, I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. And I wish I had it queued up here because I would love to show, but but it's really cool. It's like that's a ton of respect there. As somebody with no musical talent whatsoever, I respect including the hair. I respect it very much so.
I miss it.
Well, hey, and actually, that's kind of going along with that, as somebody who looking at Athena Voltaire, where you've been writing, you've been drawing. How is it to kind of just sort of take a step back as an artist and go just for writing, and then have Don with the contributions that he has as an artist? How do you two really work together to create this? This new baby?
Well, the art is going to be the heavy lifting. That's always going to be the case. And from my perspective, it's a lot of fun collaborating with Don, or previously on The Catch with Ishmael Canales, or with Mark Stegbauer on Ghoul Scouts. It's fun to see how everyone does it. And I try to not write it too heavily, like in terms of staging. I try to, like, if there's a fight scene or something, here's what happens at the beginning, fill up as many panels as you want, here's where we need to end for the next page. And so far no one has said, oh God, this sucks, I'm going to murder you in your sleep, or anything like that. They seem to like it, as far as I know. So yeah, Don's been great about that, and it's fun to see him grow by leaps and bounds. And also, like, working with somebody like Don, his storytelling choices are really ambitious a lot of the time. And it's kind of shaken me because I'm still drawing Athena Voltaire on the side, waiting for the lawsuit to finish. But yeah, I mean, while I'm looking at what Don's doing and him experimenting, it's certainly pushing me on my stuff that's not being published right now. But he always makes some really nice staging choices, and just the way that he'll pace stuff out is sometimes differently than I see it in my head. I think both Don and Ishmael, when on The Catch, I may write like a page for 4 panels, because 4 to 5 is my sweet spot for a page. And each of them may break it into 6 or 7, which I try to avoid because I feel like that's asking a lot. But when I see how they break it into that, I'm like, well, I need to make note of this on my stuff when I'm drawing something, because it's always a bunch of good choices.
Awesome.
So that's the fun part of working together with another artist, is I'm going to bring stuff back as an artist myself, and continue expanding what I do.
That's pretty cool. I love the process that writers and artists, especially when they collaborate so well together, go through, and what they take from each other, and putting it into a creation like this. And you mentioned to Bill that you're already kind of looking at a second story arc. So this 4th story arc, this is going to be a 4-issue miniseries.
Yeah.
And so you already have plans for more. That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Like every time I do a series in my mind, and it's always kind of difficult with independent comics, but I always think of things in terms of, if I can get 3 trades out, I feel like that's a win. And I mean, for most monthly books, that's a year. But for like an indie book, that's 3 years, or sometimes maybe 4. And when I say books, I do mean trades. So yeah, 3 arcs. I would love to you know, God willing, Don willing, I would love to do as many volumes of Evie as we're doing with Athena, because yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that we've talked about, and like part of me wants to share like what we're talking about for the upcoming arcs, but I think it'll be more fun to watch it develop. But yeah, we definitely have. We're I'm finishing the script on issue 3. Issue 4 is plotted. Don is drawing issue 2. Don and I are both working on our covers for issue 2, but Don and I are talking about issue 5, 6, 7, 8 for the next arc.
That's always good. There's a plan there, and when you first pick up a book, first pick up an issue number 1, as a reader, I like to know that there's something that's coming. I like to know that, hey, I've got some more to look forward to after this. And actually, speaking of covers, I did want to start taking a look at what we're working with here.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the the sample art that's been provided so far. This is the cover A, the main cover.
Don penciled, inked, and colored it.
Excellent. Yeah, it's gorgeous. I love the I like the CD. I like the just the design of it.
Yeah, gorgeous color choices.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
And he's got some great Easter eggs in there too. If you know Don, he's got a shout out to Mike Norton and Mike Norton's dog Mo.
I just noticed that. I was about to ask if that was a Mo reference.
Yes. Don is the master of Easter eggs throughout this book. I'll just say that.
I'm trying to look at the set list to see if there's any Easter eggs. What I love the most is this cool trick he does with like an opaque gray on the CD cover. For those of you who can't see it because you're listening, on this cover it's a couple of pedals. So you've got a wah pedal, you've got overdrive pedal for those of you who play guitar. All of the wires are coming out of it, and then you have an album, a CD. And the cover of it, they have done a gray wash over it, so it looks like the light is reflecting off of it just a little bit. It's a great 3-dimensional effect that is, I should say, overlaid by what appears to be blood splatter, which adds into the Monster Hunter aspect of it. It's just I think metal as fuck is this word I would use for it.
I feel like he knocked it out of the park on that cover.
100%.
Oh yeah. And then this is the cover B, I believe. And this one again, also just a great way of introducing the reader to what they can expect inside. We've got somebody. This is pretty much. This could be like part of a music video right here, like that you would expect the Helsings to be playing in a graveyard with a leather jacket with stakes on it, ready to rock and kill vampires.
I want now this one I penciled and inked, and Jason Millet, who's coloring the interiors of the book, did a gorgeous job coloring. And I just kind of, obviously the scene doesn't take place anywhere in the book, but I was hoping that the the main elements of it kind of come through with her playing the guitar, seeing the stakes, seeing all the tombstones. So yeah, it's more of a metaphorical cover.
Yeah, a little bit of a Crow feel to it as well.
Yeah.
Pardon?
A little bit of the Crow, a little bit of that vibe to
I'll
it.
take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also getting somewhat of a Zeppelin rune vibe with some of the stuff there. I'm wondering how intentional that was.
Not intentional, but again, I'll take it.
Okay.
And really quick here, we've also got a couple samples of the interior, a couple pages from the book as well, that just kind of highlight the action. This, I believe, is early on in the story, introducing us, I guess, to the previous mantle holder of the Van Helsing,
Ursula
dynasty.
Van Helsing.
Yeah. And definitely a great, the layout here with the panels, just sort of the the small descending action panels there, just really very, very much giving it a dynamic feel before it comes to a stop. But just excellent. Really cool. Don's work here, and the colors are really definitely pop there.
Yeah, I feel like Jason elevates everything he does, and Don has
Mhm.
just a couple of really wonderful story beats. Can you go back? Is that okay?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. If you go back to page 2, yeah, the second to
Mhm.
last panel, we've got all this kinetic action. We're cutting between shots of the eyes and vampires rushing Ursula, and Ursula cutting them apart, and boom, 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 and then suddenly it pauses as she was, calling out Vlad and saying, "I could do this all day," and we see, because she's hell, probably my age, and she's worn out by the battle, and so she's crouching. I love how Don frames it as such a big panel, because it's
Yeah.
I always think of this kind of thing like if this were a movie, you'd get that one sustained note from the score, and she's just there, and we're lingering, we're holding on that, and then boom, Vlad grabs her by the neck.
Mhm.
And then my other favorite panel in this sequence is on the next page. The last panel, the chomp, where he chose to do
Mhm.
everything in silhouette except for the blood. Again, that is such um it's such a powerful storytelling choice, and it's so easy to forget that silhouettes exist. But
Mhm.
as a storyteller, just that choice hits everything you need to know and blacks out everything else. And that's, again, I love these 2 pages for those 2 panels.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm
Well,
stepping on you here. Sorry about that.
no, don't worry about it. I was going to say, it's like, there is, obviously there's like elements of the cinematic here, but the one thing about, that I love about comic art and comic books and sequential art itself is that you can do things in a comic book, you can do things on a page that you really can't in the same way, on film or on television. And that's the one thing a lot of adaptations kind of forget. Like there's certain things you can't do like this. It just wouldn't be the same,
Right.
seeing this kind of thing on screen. Yeah, okay, there's some interesting action there, but on the page you get a little bit more of that. And I just love the dynamism. I love the the use of the silhouette here, the use of the pop color. I love it. And then, of course, speaking of pop color, right here, getting it introduced to to Evie herself.
I,
So,
can I interject again?
oh yeah, yeah.
I love this page, and I was talking to Jason after he turned it over, and I was telling him how much I loved it, and how much the palette really just, he nailed it. And I'm not kidding when I say this. Um, Jason researched the lighting setup at the whiskey, because our little thing calling it the bourbon,
Yep.
Yeah.
it's the whiskey a go-go. And Jason researched the lighting color palettes and incorporated that into here. And I'm just like, oh, I just need to show up. These guys are just freaking brilliant to work with. So it was just a great bit. So yeah, I love that. I love how Don drew her in the last panel. I love the cropping on panels 1 and 2, where we're building up, we're meeting her. At one point when I was lettering it, I thought about adding lyrics in and musical notes, but I like it better. We know it's not silent, but I like the comic aspect of it silent. And again, Steve, to what you were saying about unique things in the comic medium, we know they're playing. We don't have the music going, but it would be very distracting if you tried to do that in a movie.
Yeah.
Having it silent. But yeah, I love everything about this page, and I feel stupid lucky to be working with these guys.
Well, and if I can jump in, on that note, one of the things I like about what you do here with showing live music but not putting music notes or lyrics on there, it makes it malleable and it makes it adaptable to the reader. So when I see this, I get a feeling for what they might sound like in my brain. that feeling is going to be different than what Bill hears in his head or what Steve hears in his head. So it almost makes it makes the comic one size fits all for music taste, which I think is important for a book about music, right? Like, because we all have different music tastes. Like you said, you listen to instrumental stuff, movie scores when you write. I listen to a lot of, like, when I'm working, either jazz, or actually I really like a guy named Justin Johnson who plays like dobro, and I'm a metalhead, right? But I listen to this weird funk Southern stuff, like swamp witchcraft is the way I describe it. But when you don't show the music, and you're not holding the reader by the hand, you're letting them fill in the gaps in their own brain, and it just works so well. And that's more of a compliment than a comment, but I just wanted to throw that out there, because it does. You can, you don't know if they sound like the Pretenders or Kitty. I mean, you get to do that yourself, and I think that's fun for the reader.
Well, okay, to your point about that kind of projection, I hadn't really thought about that when this page was coming together, but what you're saying reflects in Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics, when he's talking about the more simplified a face is, the easier it is for the reader to project themselves onto that. And I wonder if it's a similar kind of psychological effect in what you're saying, Caleb, where because we see the instruments are playing, but we don't actually get any glimpse of lyrics or anything like that. You're right. We all can kind of project something on there. And later on, we do get some insights into Evie's band and some of the competing bands, like the wonderfully named Satan's Children, with umlauts over one of the A's, because I love this is Spinal Tap. So
needless
anyway,
umlauts.
Love the umlauts.
Awesome. And here we go. We have some more introduction to Evie and the band as well. And people, obviously people who are watching in the club as well. So we're definitely setting up here. And again, thank you so much for providing these preview pages here.
Thank you for sharing them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for the people that are listening to this instead of watching this, they are at a bit of a disadvantage, but I think we're doing pretty good on the descriptive department here. So hopefully they'll take a peek at the video or
V guitars and power stances, guys. Like, that's what more do you need?
I mean,
in a power stance,
and that look, of course, as she turns back to the to off stage, and like just that look, like, what, you want me to cut? No, we're not stopped. Come on.
The guy that's asking them to turn stuff off is Lazarus Thorne, who is the lead singer of Satan's Children. So we have the vampire storyline, but we also have the rival band storylines going on, and that was a lot of fun too. And it's hard. It was kind of weird for me because, like when you asked about writing it, when Bill asked if it was difficult, it wasn't, but it was kind of fun to write conflict that didn't involve, like, shooting a 90-year-old mummy or something. It was just like normal people having a disagreement about music. So that was fun.
It's like misfits versus the holograms, but everybody's a misfit. It's just
well, Steve, that's a good segue. I was going to ask, is Lazarus Thorne, is he Glenn Danzig or Peter Steele? Because it could go either way in what I'm looking at.
Don has thoughts, and there may be an epilogue that Don has that ties into some of the things you're asking, and that's all I'll say.
Okay.
But he sent me something for a 2-page story for some time, and he might replace me on writing this because he's pretty freaking brilliant. But Caleb, that will be answered one way or another.
Now I am excited. I'm very excited.
You have the excitement. And a couple other things here that you did send us. And again, these are for people who are supporting the Kickstarter. We have some stretch goal images here.
That one is when we doubled our initial goal and got 12,000. Don wanted to create a brand new piece of art for it, and I think it's beautiful.
Oh yeah. Show poster, just or like a a page out of a magazine. Just it's really, really cool. And
Steve,
then
can you tell us
also,
if Don is he working digitally or is he working traditionally?
He's working digitally right now, but I guess he's had a few people ask about purchasing original art.
Yeah.
So he might do some pages traditionally. He said that on Twitter, so I feel like it's safe for me to say that. But he hasn't started issue 2 yet. We're just kind of brainstorming on it. Well, we've each started covers, but to my knowledge, he hasn't started the actual pages. But yeah, for now, digital.
an original art, Caleb. Uh-oh. Do you have space on your wall now?
There was reasons I was asking. As I look at my my Murr Falcon piece by DWJ on the wall over here, music and comics is big in my world.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
and then here's the Virgin cover, and again, I really love this.
Oh, thank you.
As much as the colors did just a beautiful job with this, just the contrast here with the black and white image is also just beautiful. So this is just inks. Now this was done via Inksters as digital as well.
It's digital. I penciled and inked it, and then there's a print, like working traditionally. There's a kind of paper that called craft tint that was really big, like during the EC Comics time in the 50s and stuff like that. And it made a comeback in the mid to late 80s. Mark Nelson used it. By then it was called Duo Shade. And Mark used it on the first Aliens miniseries from Dark Horse. So it's paper that has non-photo blue hatching on it. And you use 2 different developers on it. So one developer brings out a single hatch and a second developer brings out a cross hatch. And this all makes sense here in a minute. It started after Mark did it in Aliens, it started finding its way into role-playing games. Primarily Shadowrun from FASA Corporation. Jim Nelson and Jeff Lobenstein and Tim Bradstreet used it there. And when White Wolf Game Studio launched Vampire the Masquerade, they hired Tim to do Duo Shade drawings. And Tim is the whole reason that I have anything resembling a career, because he introduced me to the people at Game Designers Workshop, where I got my career start, introduced me to the FASA people, and showed me how to ink also. So this is a big old thank you to Tim and his work. So it's an homage of his White Wolf vampire stuff. But I used a digital way to recreate the look of the Duo Shade. Was that too inside baseball?
Cool. No, that is like I'm like getting schooled. I'm getting like learned here.
As somebody who's both an old school White Wolf fan, I've got all the books in that closet back there, and who is on the record as saying I'm a complete whore for Zipatone and stuff like that. This is right up my alley.
Awesome. Well, but yeah, it's digital.
Caleb, I'm going to throw it over to you for sure. I'm going to throw it over to you because I'm sure you've got some more to say on this. But yeah, I mean, thank you so much for letting me know that. I mean, and also connecting that Vampire the Masquerade, Vampires, Evie, and the Helsings.
It all
fits. It all fits. It's all the lines connect on this.
I've got my Charlie board behind me, like in Sunny, and it's all there.
Over here.
Well, what I love about that grayscale is it works. Just to use the sound metaphor, it's kind of like a bass player. So what that texture does is it bridges the tone and the texture in the same way that a bass player bridges the beat, the percussion, and the rhythm with the notes that are being played. So that's one of the reasons I love things like Zipatone or like Duotone and stuff like that, because it is that central thing that elevates it. It gives it depth. It gives it texture, and I love when artists use it both physically or digitally. I think it's fantastic.
I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead. No, sir. Finish your thought.
I got my career start in 1989 at GDW, Game Designers Workshop, and at the time, role-playing games were mostly illustrated, like interiors were black and white. So I developed a lifelong love affair with Zipatone and Duoshade, and looking at Mark Schultz's Xenozoic Tales,
Yep.
and Al Williamson Star Wars strips and stuff like that, and seeing how they used it. And I didn't have the drawing chops to do a very good job, 34 years ago. But yeah, this Evie variant was kind of my revenge. I'm like, I finally figured it out. Here's a decent black and white with tones on it. So, I can rest easy.
Well, and it's made a bit of a revolution, or a resurgence, I should say, lately. I mean, you've got guys like Raleigh Rossimo who just are using it all over the place. I mean, it's becoming more and more, because it had faded away for a while. We didn't see it a whole lot, but I love that we're getting more of it.
I think with digital colors, I think sometimes it fell out of favor at the beginning of the digital coloring period because everything was so modeled. But now you get a lot of you still have modeled and painterly colors, but you also have people that are doing really cool things with flat colors. And if you're working with a flat colorist, you can slap those in, and it's really cool. And I'll shut up now.
Well, hey, since we're already off in the weeds, I want to keep asking these kind of like craft/nerd questions. So I have one, and this comes from my undergrad is in writing, so I'm gonna channel some of that real quick. But between this and Athena Voltaire, you've written some really dynamic female leads, right? And so we live in an age where we have these conversations about authenticity of voice, and does somebody have the autonomy to channel that voice? What is it like, and how do you go about writing these really forward-facing female characters in a world where we get these questions about authenticity? What is your system like in that, or do you think about that too much?
I haven't really thought about it with women characters, but one of my big concerns, I think last time I was on, we talked a little bit about Maximus Rex, and Lena Lone, who is a trans woman in the book, the webcomic. And I want to, whether it's the Athena Voltaire stuff or anything else, I want to do my best to portray a big, broad, diverse world. But by the same token, I don't feel that I'm qualified to write a story about what it's like to be Black. I feel like it's okay for me to write a story about with a Black lead or with a woman lead, but I don't know. Again, like what you're talking about with authentic voices, and I think in Evie we don't really talk about that. About the fact that she's a strong woman, so she's just kind of written from the perspective of a strong person, and I hope that doesn't diminish how the character works. But like you did mention the Athena Voltaire stuff, and in there I have been playing around with some of this. The last book we did was Terror on the Orient Express, and it's essentially Alien on a train.
Right.
And so, we go into a monster hunt, and the conductor empowers Athena and Benton Quinn, who's essentially Doc Savage, and he's African American, and the conductor lets the two of them patrol the ship. And so I did do like a 2-page sequence where each of them encounters different people on the train, and Quinn, the people don't make eye contact, they just walk right by him, even though he's there protecting them. And so that was because Athena takes place in 1936. So I wanted to touch on it, but I know the book is largely anachronistic because while there were female pilots, she's not quite. I don't want to write a superhero in this case, but there's a lot of that level of action that she sustains. Right. But like when Athena's walking down the corridor, and some guy sees the gun on her hip and is like, you know how to use that, sweetie, or something like that. And she's like, try me, sport.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't know that I can write. I don't know that I should write dealing with sexism, at least not in a. I can portray it, and if I do, I want to portray winning out over it, but I don't know that I'm the guy that should be writing an inner monologue for somebody saying this is how I feel with this. Right. So that's kind of where I'm drawing the line, and hopefully I'm not telling somebody else's story. That was a really long answer, and I hope it kind of made sense.
No, it absolutely did. It's great because it gets into that, there is an empathy, that you want to portray there, but it's, and the only reason I said that was when you got more into talking about, driving force being character versus plot. You get a lot of that because with plot driven things, it's easier to kind of gloss over the ephemera of the world, right? Like the stuff, because it's plot point A, plot point B, plot point C. But when you get into character and what is the building blocks, the experience of these folks, it's just something I've always wondered. Like I've tried writing, one of the short stories I published in college was about a trans man. And it's hard. I'm not a trans man. I don't know what I have trans friends. And I went to a trans friend and said, hey, read this and tell me, what I messed up. And they did. Right. And they were honest, and that's what I wanted. And so it was kind of that thing. And I appreciate what you said. It's like I can write these things. I can deal with them in the story without me telling you exactly what it is or how it should be. I think that is a great way to look at it. And I appreciate that. And it comes off. So not having read the newest thing, it definitely comes off in Athena.
Well, thank you. And yeah, I just feel like I think you dropped empathy when talking about this. And I feel like it's really important. And I think we had this talk last time I was on, just in light of some of the shit that's going on. And I don't want to go off on too much of a political soapbox, but I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but a political party is really trying to demonize the entire LGBTQ community. I'm sure you're shocked.
Yeah, I've heard tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of these things. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I feel like, sorry, I hope that wasn't too over the top, but
no, not at all.
I feel like so much gets lost. And again, I don't want to come on as, Joe cishet white guy that, I feel everyone else's plight or any kind of nonsense like that. But I do feel like everybody that disagrees with this and disagrees with kind of the way the Republicans are handling this. If you're a creative, I feel like it's our responsibility to try and
art is resistance.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, Andrew Vax, crime author, he referred to his fiction because he primarily defended children pro bono in child abuse cases, and he referred to his fiction as a Trojan horse because he went into the child abuse details within the context of the fiction, and he educated his audience about that. And I always love that term Trojan horse for this stuff because, again, I can't speak from a perspective of persecution, but I can try to represent a better world, the world that I want to live in. God, that sounded pretentious. It made it much better in my head. So, but it lands still.
If I can paraphrase it, something I've said before and I say a lot is that if you're going to stand against something, you better be able to recognize it. So I think that's essentially what you're talking about. It's like I recognize this, I see these things, and here's what they look like to me. And I know how to stand against it. So I appreciate that answer. I'm going to shift just a little bit and talk about some of the more, you put this out via Kickstarter, and as you've done a lot of your stuff, you've also, you've worked for a lot of the major publishers, and you've done stuff for Dark Horse and stuff. on your website, which by the way, everyone should go visit, it's stevebryantcomics.com. Go check it out. You drop some gems on there. I enjoy reading it. But at the first of this month, you dropped an article, and essentially you're talking about the reasons that I think you chose to do Kickstarter, but more than that, you talk about kind of the state of the industry a little bit. And there was a quote in that you say no comics publisher that set out to be an IP farm has ever succeeded. And in my brain, I'm like, okay, what are we talking about? Because I have my ideas of what an IP farm is, and so I went through and I read your article, and I was just I've read it 3 times today because I was like, there's so much in here. It really is great. So let's talk about that a little, like the state of the industry. We have a company like Image Comics that is huge that says, hey, other than I think their Skybound section, it says, hey, you come here, you get the rights to your work, we'll publish it for you. And you have the big 2, which they have their own IPs, and if you want to create a new IP for them, you can. But you have Kickstarter that you have complete control over, and then you have these new companies, right? There's this fourth kind of weird morphic thing that's happening where you have these new companies that are also broaching into Kickstarter, which is its own issue, that's separate. But they come here and they say, hey, like, well, you put it better than I could. The writers don't matter, the story doesn't necessarily matter, just the IP matters. Can you like flesh that out and talk about the industry for a minute? Where is it going and what's happening with it from your perspective?
Now, a very important consideration is that, and this is not like false humility. This is not fishing for a compliment. At best, I am a D-list creator, and that's being generous to myself. And that I'm not talking about ability or anything else like that. I'm simply talking about in the perspective of people that sell a lot of books or have relationships with people in power in the industry. I am not that guy. So my experience is going to be different from somebody who has a monthly book at DC or something like that. So I feel like that qualifier needs to be in there. But at this level, which I think there are probably more people at this level in comics than there are making a full-time living in it. Absolutely. But at this level, you can try to pitch your book to Image, but more often than not, I don't know that they're going to be picking up a lot of known. Again, I say this and put myself in this category. They're not going to pick up a lot of no-name people. I have a wonderful audience, but Image is not going to look and say, hey, this kid's going to sell us 10,000 books a month or anything like that. And I mean, their model isn't really built on them making a lot of money from you selling 100,000 books or you selling 2,000. They have a flat fee, is my understanding. But most of the people that are going to Image are people that have established fan base at Marvel and DC. And, if they sell 2, 5, 8,000 books, it's different than selling 2 or 5 or 8,000 books at Marvel or DC because the royalty structure, and they're pulling a lot more money. I can't imagine the kind of money that I've just blanked on his name and I'm so humiliated. Fiona Staples and Brian
K. Vaughan.
Thank you. All I was getting was Azzarello, and I'm like, it's not Azzarello.
but also Azzarello.
Yeah, but, also that's
yeah. But I mean, like on Saga, they're selling 50, 80,000 books or something, and once you give that flat fee, they're getting all of that money. So an $80,000 unit book at Image for a creator is significantly more than they're going to make on an 80,000 unit book at DC or whatever. As I understand it, not having experienced that firsthand, I have to put that qualifier in there. But Image does not control creators' intellectual property. They don't control the film or television rights. You go there, they publish your comics, you own everything. So they do not fall into the category of what I say is an IP farm. and neither do Dark Horse or Boom or IDW, because those are diversified companies that they have licensed books, or sometimes they'll do select toys, like Dark Horse will do lunch boxes. IDW does artist editions, so they're not just focused on their creator-owned books. What I'm talking about, I'm also not talking about like companies that only publish indie books but have a really tightly curated line, because they're also investing in it. I'm talking about the shotgun companies, and I've had a book at one of those kinds of companies where they will have, they want market share just by sheer volume, and it doesn't matter if they have multiple books that have similar premises. Again, I don't want to point a lot of fingers, but say you have a book that stars a girl with a jetpack, and somebody else brings another book that stars a girl with a jetpack. You're cannibalizing your market. But the thing is, from that publisher's point of view, if they lock up both of these books and they're in a meeting with somebody, oh, you don't like this one? Well, how about this one? How about this one? How about this one? I've got 6 different kid detectives books, kids versus monsters, whatever. And the whole idea behind those kinds of companies is just the churn. If I have as many of these as I can, something's got to land. Whereas when you're an independent creator and you're publishing, say, through Image, and you're in charge of the lifespan of your the existence of your book outside comics, it's not like you have 50 other ones in your back pocket. This is your baby, and your whole purpose, if you do something in another medium, as a comic creator, I think I speak for probably 95% of us out there. It's not like, this is why I'm doing comics. It's like, oh boy, a deal like that would mean I can make more comics. And that's the distinction. But with a lot of these publishers, they just want to have as many, having the rights to a ton of books is like buying 100 Powerball tickets instead of just buying one. You have all of these chances, and maybe one of them is going to hit. And yeah, there have been companies that have tried to do that. Some of them have popped up. Some of them have recently gone into bankruptcy. And yeah, none of them really last forever. Sometimes they merge with other companies, but they don't survive because they're chasing this money from other industries. I don't know if I think I kind of hit upon everything, and I'm not trying to be oblique, because you can look at it and you can judge for yourself. And maybe a company that you feel is an IP farm, I may not, but we can look at the output of companies' work and say, oh, they sure do a lot of books with this one kind of thing. Yeah,
seems very not a lot of breadth to the line. So
if I can just interject, just turning that on a little bit on the knob there. By the same token, from a creative standpoint, a reader can tell a book that's based on a failed movie pitch from a mile away. So I would have to just provide a caveat that it's not just the publishers that are out there, that are chasing success in another medium through a medium that it's just a very crass reason for existence. But sometimes you have hacks in any industry, and we can sniff them out too.
That's cool. Yeah, and I mean, I've been approached, like in small press in San Diego, by people who are like, what do you charge? And I've got this screenplay, and it's like, I'm really happy for you, and I don't mean any disrespect, but I could throw a shoe into the crowd and hit somebody that's got a screenplay they want to have a comic artist adapt into a comic, so they can have proof of concept, because that seems to be the big Hollywood thing. So yeah, I'm glad that it is apparent when you see some of this.
By the same token, some of these publishers that are in the vein that you've mentioned, there's a pretty high kill rate.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why people aren't looking at history from Radical Publishing on, if I can just provide a name.
Oh yeah.
That baffles me that people are still trying to work within this particular model where it's just failure after failure after failure.
And yeah, I mean, some of them are more of a startup, and sometimes they even have like pure intentions when they start, but enough turnover on staff, and it moves over to something else. But then others are entirely started with, like, if you look at the credits page on a book, if somebody has the title of producer, I think they're probably in here for a non-comic reason. And yeah, I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah.
I think you hit on something that's pertinent to it, though, in that article, because there's two paragraphs, they follow each other, and you talk about the appeal of legitimacy that both comic fans and comic creators look for in that of, oh, hey, this is going to be in Previews magazine. That gives me legitimacy, and the promise of validation. And I think both of those, especially from a creator standpoint, right? Because especially new creators are looking for that. They want to be seen as legitimate. They want to be validated. So they'll take what they can get. And that the way that you didn't use this language, this is my language, not yours. The way that you talk about these particular publishers is they almost have a predatory notion to them. They're looking for prey. Like they are looking for vulnerable people who are wanting to be legitimized and be validated. And they seek them out, and they just kind of grab them and pull them in. And I thought that was a great way to look at it. But I wanted to ask you, I think that is verifiably true when we talk about the direct market, right? And we talk about kind of the stranglehold that Diamond had on it before we had Lunar, but now we have two. Still kind of a But do you think that is lessening some now that we have avenues like Kickstarter, that we have these other crowdsourced, crowdfunding things where anybody can be legitimate, right? Can be validated by almost a democratic money pool?
I've had these kinds of talks with friends, and I don't want to name them just in case they don't feel this is public yet. But yeah, I have one friend who I really respect. He's on an kind of a Facebook Messenger group who is convinced that things are going to shift with Kickstarter in the next year or two, and more people doing crowdfunding. But yeah, I forgot about the whole validation thing, and I feel like I'm such a cautionary tale for that, because in 2004, 2005, I got an Eisner Award nomination for Best Digital Comic the first year they did it, when Athena Voltaire was a webcomic. Didn't win, but I got a nomination. This is great. What are you going to do, Steve? I'm going to abandon webcomics and seek validation in print comics. And I did that, and I had not a whole lot of success. 2010, there's this new thing called Kickstarter. I'm on comic podcasts explaining, well, it's kind of like a PBS pledge drive. Instead of a tote bag, you get all these other things. Because at the time, the platform was like 9 months old. And I think I got like 150% of my goal. Success. What are you going to do, Steve? I'm going to abandon crowdfunding and try to seek my, fame and fortune and validation in the direct market. And I had two opportunities where I had success, quantifiable success in one area, and I still said, but that's where the real people go. And I don't know that. Yeah, there is a legitimacy, and all you need to do is follow comic creators on Twitter, and it's not, or Facebook even, and it's not just sharing pre-order stuff. Hey, here's my book, but the joy of, I can't believe I have a book in previews, the Diamond catalog. I can't believe this. And yeah, I mean, and I get it. I've had that same sense of joy, but and maybe I just sound like a bitter hack by saying this, but having that sense of joy does not mean you're necessarily going on to the next step. And I'm finally okay with where I am and quite happy with it. And I just wish that I had figured out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it and where to get my own validation. I wish I'd figured that out like 10 years sooner. But that's the thing for all of us. Everybody has to find that within themselves and determine what they want and how they want to get it.
Yeah, you're my new mentor. I'm gonna call you on a fairly regular basis for this kind of just wisdom drops.
Charge by the hour, Steve. Charge by the hour.
Well, if you want to know how to kind of hang around comics for a long time but not really build it into a career, I'm your guy. No, well, Phil Hester has the best quote though. I think someone asked him like about how you stay in comics, and he just said, "You never leave."
Yeah,
and I think there's something to be said for that. Regardless of what level you're at, if you're still producing stuff and the web and crowdfunding give us the ability to do that, it's pretty cool. So just don't leave.
Well, speaking of crowdfunding, I did want to plug the Kickstarter, because that's what we've been talking about here.
Sorry, I rambled. Thank you.
No, absolutely. This is great. But I did want to show everybody the page, the Kickstarter page. It is up there. You're more than double your original goal as of this point.
And Steve, was this the quickest you came to goal on a campaign?
I think so.
Yeah, it was very quick.
26 hours.
Yeah.
I think it beat Athena, Voltaire, the Terror on the Orient Express, which I think that took us 2 or 3 days. But yeah, and I mean, the thing I'm really excited about with Evie is we did it with a project it's not pre-existing. It's not like, hey, it's your old friend Steve, remember me from Athena? Here, that kind of thing. It's a totally new book. And yeah, that was really exciting for both Don and me.
Yeah.
And again, obviously, with Kickstarter, there's always incentives for people to support, and obviously your stretch goals, everything that you've had up here.
Yeah. I absolutely love that you characterize them as staked.
Oh yeah, staked.
I was just excellent. Unlocked and staked hit me, so I went with it.
And I wanted to point this out because I think you were talking about it here. The one of the stretch goals, if you can see it here, is this absolutely beautiful retro cover for Evie and the Helsings. This is very like Marvel, Tomb of Dracula. This is it's just.
Also have to say, we have a friend, John Runyon, who has the Comic Book Page podcast, and he's a huge horror fan, and I've been getting messages from him throughout this episode. It sounds like you got a fan for life now, too.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah,
he's very much steeped in 70s Marvel horror, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He texted me and called me out because I didn't mention Nipsey Hussle when I was talking about music that I listened to.
Well, I want to point out issue 2. Don and I have already decided what our retro homage cover is going to be, and it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. We may be going DC this time. I'll just say that, but having a blast with it. But yeah, what you've got up right there is the stretch goal of the postcard, which all the print supporters get. Oh, I just got it here, in fact. Oh, wait, I think I know him. I don't know. Someone named Caleb backed. Is that you? Or is that a different
me. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I realized I hadn't
call you out. But yeah, we've got my iPad gives me the alerts, so thank you. But yeah, this is a postcard of cover C, which is also available. But all the physical backers get this postcard too. But you can also get that cover on its own.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I keep derailing you.
And if people can keep going, because man, I want those MP3s.
Yeah, that's down here a little bit further. After the 12,000 to 13,000 stretch goal here, exclusive audio MP3s, the secret origin of Evie and Helsings.
But the 15,000 goal is the really cool one, and Don came up with that, and he's a flipping genius because he already has the song written, and I think he might even have like the woman singer in mind. So I would love to be able to, you know, and this is probably cart before the horse, but I would love to be able to do a song with each campaign. That would be great. But that puts a lot of pressure on Don.
Hey, you know, at the end of like the second story arc, you're gonna have a full album if you do that.
There you go. But I mean, again, he's already doing the heavy lifting. He's drawing, and now I want him, you know, to write and orchestrate, you know, 8-10 songs. Sure, that's no problem.
Sure, of course.
And if I could just quickly ask, your involvement with Don, how did you come to know him? Was it from his work on Pax of the Low Country or just from the Chicago comic community?
I think I first met him on the 11 o'clock comics message board.
Right.
And then we stayed in touch over Twitter, and I would see him all the time at C2E2. Yeah, it's so fun to watch somebody like Don because he's a very conscientious artist. He's not somebody that churns out pages. He has the objective to constantly improve, and he's wildly productive. So he's always working. He's always improving. And I'm envious of that because I feel like I keep getting slower the older I get. So I look at him, you know, just going up and up and up, and it's pretty great to be a part of.
Well, I just to let you know, I did post the Kickstarter link in all of our live streams. So if anybody watching wants to go ahead and pledge now, if you haven't, or check it out, definitely do so, and we'll have that in the show notes as well.
Thank you. Can I point out one thing on the Kickstarter video?
Sure.
Watch it until the end. I know there's some cringy stuff where I'm talking about the book and being earnest, but watch it until the end. And again, this is just me praising Don the whole time. He's hilarious, and there's a great bit at the end of the video. Has anyone watched it yet? Okay. So yeah,
I'll second that motion.
I don't know how he's going to top it next time.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just freaking brilliant and a great collaborator.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Steve, thank you very much for joining us. Really loved having you. Cannot wait to get this book in our hands.
I feel like whenever I'm on, I talk like your hours are like your show is like triple length because of me, and I apologize.
No, don't apologize for that.
But these two blabbermouths, no.
Okay.
Don't have to worry about that. But we absolutely love your insights, and for me, following your stuff for 2004, I think.
Thank you, Comic Geek Speak.
Oh yeah. It goes back to that. Yeah. You know, I'm so heartened to hear that we have more of female aviatrix. That
it is coming. It is coming. Regardless of how the lawsuit ends, because that was a pre-existing property.
Right.
My contract will be up in 2026. So if nothing else, there's that possibility. I want to get the new stuff happening sooner because we're just getting to the meat of like an ongoing story. But yeah, thank you for being patient and supportive with that.
Oh, absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely. You know, I literally have every Athena Voltaire release. I literally have everyone.
Thank you. Can I ask a dumb question before you guys all move on with the show?
Sure.
Is anybody coming to C2E2 or San Diego Comic-Con?
Not for me. I think we're aiming for Heroes and Baltimore, and I'll be at
Yeah.
New York. Yeah. So the frustrating thing with C2E2 is at this point you never know what time of year it's going to be.
Right.
You know,
I think they're going to settle back into spring.
I hope so.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
Well, Steve, if you can get down to Heroes sometime, Heroes Con is a lot of fun.
I went out there in 2016. I had a blast. My partner enjoys TV stuff and film stuff, but and she loves all ages graphic novels because she's a school librarian. But because Heroes is so comic centric,
Yeah.
she's not interested in coming back. And most of my friends, I'm an empty nester at this point, but most of my friends have school age kids, and it's like, you want to go on Father's Day weekend?
Yeah.
Oh, my wife will kill me. Oh, screw you. So I really want to go back, and I would love to make it a yearly thing. I promise I will come there and we will hang out. I don't know when.
I love C2E2. That's I've been up there. I didn't get to go the last couple of years, but I need to return. Some of my favorite people live in Chicago. Most of my favorite people who live in Chicago. So I need to get back. I need to get back up there. I really do.
Maybe 2024. That'll be
yeah.
The year of C2E2 for all of us.
We'll all raise a glass of Malort.
No.
Don't do that.
Stephen Wood.
We've done that once.
Oh, oh my gosh.
Oh.
Now I know what evil tastes like.
Oh, like a Van Helsing victim, put a nail in it.
Yeah.
Enough. Yeah.
I love Stephen, but God,
I think he takes extra joy in torturing people.
Oh, he does.
He does, but it's just, look, I've tasted death once. That's
pure evil in liquid form.
All right.
Yeah.
I killed the vibe. My work here is done.
No, I was just thinking about the joke that I want to make that I'm not going to.
Ooh. Send me a message. But I should get upstairs. And so I'll let you guys get on with everything. But
thank you again. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Great.
So do you kick me out or do I do something? I'll see.
You can kick yourself out when you're done.
How do I do that? Oh, leave studio. Okay. I need to dramatically storm off. We'll see you guys later.
Take care, Steve.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh God, I love having him on.
He is so much fun.
He's always great.
He is also the only creator I have more than one original art page from.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I have an Athena Voltaire page, and I have when he did the John Steed and Emma Peel Avengers with Mark Waid. I have a page of that. It's the only artist I have more than one page.
Well, I just love the conversations that we all end up having. When he's on, it's just always great. We've had several people join in, and I didn't want to, interrupt everything, but we've had John Westoff as had a couple comments here. Nation of Steves. Yes, yeah. And also that Don is the key to succeed. That is sounds to be the truth there. John Runyon popped in. Comic Book Bears Assemble, tuning things in Photoshop things for work, which was always fun. And then we also had architectural foam panels and columns, and I love the screen name here. But they had some really great insights during the conversation about IP and IP factory creation here. Creators and publishers should focus on making good comics instead of treating them as Netflix pitches. And I think that might be a little bit pointed towards a certain Mark Miller out there, who basically is doing nothing but Netflix pitches now as Netflix comics.
To be fair, he's paid by Netflix to do that.
That's something that's on a different plateau. And he's a creator who's on a certain plateau. I mean, that's you cannot dispute that he's earned that.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. At this point,
I brought up an old publisher, Radical Publishing. Their stuff, apart from the only one, and this was because it was a pre-existing comic project before, which was Rick Mermender's Scene from American Crime, or whatever the hell it was. American Crime's in the title. It was really good. But the rest of their stuff, oh my God. God, after you read it, you just wanted to make sure that you didn't have like a parking stub from Spago's, after, it was so disgustingly Hollywood, it was disgusting. And, there are other publishers that have
Yeah.
since proliferated the
Yeah.
industry, and, at points there's been a number of them active at the same time. And it's a business model that obviously isn't working, but it's just not stopping a certain type of person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it
Like
works.
the people, who I think are these people, the people that actually call themselves entrepreneurs on Twitter or Instagram, like somebody who actually calls themselves an entrepreneur. That's the kind of people that I think are behind this stuff.
People whose job is to be what are they, the Instagram people,
Influencer?
and they're influencers. I'm an influencer.
Influencers,
No,
yeah.
go.
Or they're going to leverage the power of a known influencer.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
that
I
kind of thing.
corporate speak. I hate it
Oh,
so much.
there was somebody I worked with, and literally everything they said was corporate speak.
Oh,
Literally everything. If I heard a line one more time, yeah. They don't last too long either, or they like get better jobs. So
yeah.
Well,
unfortunately. And
the fortunate, unfortunate thing.
God. Hey, David Toby.
Yep, David came in. So hey, boys. Hey, David.
Hello there, and we plan on talking to David soon on the show.
Oh yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Is it things brewing?
Oh yes. Well, I guess we had a couple things. Cause I know, we had a great conversation, and we're at about an hour and 20 minutes here.
Yeah.
Do we want to just sort of like steamroll through the news and?
It's big news, but it's
Yeah.
very quick news,
Mhm.
so I think we're
Yeah.
good. So,
It's very
Steve,
sad news.
I don't. Sad and happy. We got a sad
Yeah,
item
we'll
and
do
we have
both.
a happy item. We'll do the
We'll do
sad
both.
item first, so we leave feeling good. Okay, so for our first item of news, we want to talk about some unfortunate cancellations of shows. We got word, was it today or yesterday?
Just yesterday. Yeah, it's
Yesterday.
kind of like a late item.
That both Doom Patrol and Titans are ending with their 4 seasons. They're actually in the midst of their 4 seasons. They both had split airings of seasons, so we had half of Titans and half of Doom Patrol. Episodes run on HBOMAX, and both Titans and Doom Patrol will have their final episodes air later in the year. These are the last 2 live-action surviving shows from DC Universe. The Harley Quinn animated series is still going on. That was renewed for a 4th season. I'm gonna miss them. I'm really gonna miss them, but I think people have to keep in mind that 4 seasons, no matter what the climate is in broadcasting, is very, very respectable. I do think it doesn't feel as much because the seasons aren't as long as a 22 episode traditional series, but with Titans we had sometimes a hyper violent and vulgar version of these favorite characters, and with Doom Patrol we had a shit ton of queer representation. So they will be missed for very different reasons, but both were very satisfying shows. Both I'm going to be very sad to see leave us. And it was also interesting today that we did have a follow-up post, because of course people are pointing fingers at James Gunn.
Yep.
And,
I was going to mention that too.
yeah,
he had to come out and
say that these decisions were made prior to him. And the split season circumstance, what I'm certain happened is that HBO Max went to Berlanti and the other producers and said, we're going to split the seasons and determine whether there will be an additional season from the numbers from the streaming numbers from the first set. I'm almost certain that's what happened. And it does give both shows an opportunity to tie up any loose ends and leave on a satisfactory basis, which I was very happy that Stargirl was afforded.
That's what I appreciate.
Yeah. If we do have other iterations of these characters in live action television or in film, they do have something very high to live up to. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we do have some good news that's also related to Titans, and that
is Titans #1 is coming soon from Tom Taylor and Nicola Scott.
Yep.
I am so excited for this.
And what's really kind of like what's bringing this about is sort of the new dawn of the DC universe here. The Justice League is no more for now. I think they've already announced in April or May that there's going to be another Justice League book, but
they haven't announced anything. But if you look at the new ad that was released this week, it obviously says the return of the Justice League in there. I don't think there's been any approach about
like formal. There's no formal who's on.
We
the
know
book
it's coming.
Or what,
it's
not
to be
but I love this
bad IP, but it's too valuable a piece of IP to leave dormant.
Exactly.
Let's put it that way.
So
Speaking of IP,
a few things on this. I absolutely love Cyborg's look.
Yes.
Cyborg is a character that I don't traditionally enjoy just because I think a lot of people get that character wrong visually. I love this look on Cyborg. And
sort of sleek look.
Yeah. With the day glow. And then I also really like that Dick has got like the shaggy surfer boy hair going on. I think that looks really cool. So my question too is I'm assuming this is Wally West as Flash.
It's gotta be.
Yeah,
gotta be.
It's still weird, like Wally. So Wally West on the Wally West on the Titans is weird to me. Like Cyborg on the Justice League is, because I think of Wally West as the Flash on to me he should be on the Justice League.
But that's also where you came in.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, he's always been a Titan.
Yeah. Well, John Stewart to me is John Stewart is Green Lantern, right? So but that makes sense.
I think this version of Wally West, like Wally West in the full Flash, Flash costume, to me looks a little out of place. If you didn't know, if you looked at this picture and you didn't know that was Wally,
it's just the Flash,
right? Why is the Flash on this team? Kid Flash, obviously one of the originals of Teen Titans. But this version of Wally West, and
I also love Nicholas Scott's touches. I mean, you have a beautiful Donna and a beautiful Corey here, and they're not over sexualized, but they're absolutely
Donna
gorgeous.
here. Donna Troy here is just beautiful. I love
bombshell.
And even the look on Garth's face is this is an older, wiser Titan.
I love him. I want to cuddle him so hard.
Yeah. I am so excited for this book.
But so that's good. Some sad news about in the TV world, but some great news.
Let's face it, not totally unexpected, but also with this, I can't imagine that you're going to see a renewal for Pennyworth if these two shows are going. I'm certain it's going to be announced soon too.
No, I mean Pennyworth is,
but also with Pennyworth season 3, Pennyworth, and I know you're not caught up, but Pennyworth season 3, it ends on a perfect note if that is the end. Yeah,
I think you had mentioned that, and Pennyworth. Speaking of niche, like Doom Patrol, the fact that Doom Patrol got 4 seasons for such a niche concept, niche team, very outside of the the norm for superhero teams,
and it's the most Morrison thing that's ever been done.
So even more than happy, yes, I would agree with that.
Yes.
Even more than happy, yes.
So I guess we do have some comics to talk about, and we're going to be switching up the order a little bit today.
As we've made some changes with the show, we're going to be doing books, and we're not necessarily going to be locked in the old Steve, Caleb, Bill order. It depends on what's being talked about, and if there's a link from the last segment, which we have here.
Continuity.
Again, the leader of the Titans is Dick Grayson, Nightwing, and Nightwing recently, as in last week, celebrated its 100th issue. And what happens in Nightwing 100 is we basically have pretty much a full wrap-up of what's been going on in the last 2 years since Tom Taylor took over the book. The situations of Dick basically becoming the protector once again of Bloodhaven, which is right by Gotham. Sometimes it's depicted as part of Gotham, but it's right there. Think Staten Island compared to Manhattan. That's the way I gotta put it. But we open up with Bloodhaven, and when you enter Bloodhaven, the first thing somebody coming outside of Bloodhaven sees is a really sleekly designed yet overpowering prison. And this is where a character that has become one of the main bads for Nightwing decides to come in and take over the city, and he's going to take over the city by releasing many of the inmates and that's Heartless. And I talked on the last episode about the Nightwing annual that provided Heartless's origin. So he releases a bunch of people to cause chaos in the power gap now that Blockbuster is off the scene. One of the individuals that he releases is KG Beast. If you know your Nightwing lore, KG Beast is the assassin that put a bullet into Dick Grayson's head that left him as Rick.
Yep.
What was he? A cab driver? Yeah, he was a cab driver.
I ignored a lot of that.
Yeah, he was a cab driver. He wasn't Dick Grayson for a period of time. Dick remembers this, and so does KGB. So when they have their confrontation in the issue, it's pretty powerful and pretty epic. So Dick is in a position that he has to get control of the situation in Bloodhaven to prevent Heartless from taking over. And how does he do that? He calls upon his friends, which he has many, but the first ones that come to mind naturally are the classic New Teen Titans lineup. He restores order, and in the process of doing that, he has various conversations with Batman separately and with Superman and Wonder Woman. They're basically tasking him with becoming a bigger leader than he has been. Basically, the leader of the Earth's heroes, now that the Justice League, at least for a time, is non-existent. Where there's been a lot of press for this book has been a very touching scene between Bruce and Dick. They each say stuff to each other that has never been said before. And I don't want to spoil things. I think in the right mode, you may need a Kleenex or two to get through those pages. But we end up with Dick, who, again, if you haven't been following Nightwing, is now a billionaire because of Arthur Pennyworth bequeathing him his fortune. And on the site of the prison, they're going to erect a new Titans Tower. It's set up for the new Titans, but I think it also sets up something that's bigger than Titans, and that is basically a testimony of Dick's role and his importance in the DC universe. So it's an ending of sorts. We've already had solicitations that Tom Taylor is continuing with this book, and Bruno Redondo is continuing with this book, but it's definitely a coda to this particular era of Nightwing. As a superhero book, you could not ask for better. You got fights, you got beautiful interlude, and I'll just show this here and try to describe it for people who are listening, of these one-page pinups of the history of Nightwing's costumes as he is venturing through Bloodhaven, attempting to save it. You know, there were parts of the book that were just dumb fun. There were points in the book where it was incredibly smart and nuanced fun. And I just adore this run to death. And God, what a book. Oh, so happy with it.
I've got to get the trades. I really do. Like, this is something I'm so mad because I love Tom Taylor.
Thank God there's such a thing as trades for you.
Yeah, I know.
Really.
And it really sucks too because like this is something I would have read on Comixology to catch up and you get jumped back on, but Comixology is just unbearable now.
You know, maybe think about DC Universe Infinite for a short time.
That's exactly what I was going to suggest. I mean, you know, trades,
especially now that they only have a 3-month gap between the print version.
Yeah. I did just get an iPad.
Oh, yeah. If Brother Brian were here with us, he'd say that's the way to go.
He would preach the gospel of it. Yeah, he sure would.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think Caleb has a book that's within the big two, so why don't we throw it over to him?
Yeah, I do. So since you spoke about the distinguished competition, I will speak on the House of Ideas. Look, this is what we need Brother Brian here because I'm going to talk about some X-Men shit, and this is where he would just beam and shine and show out and show his knowledge and of the lore and his love for it. And I'm going to do a woefully undercapped job of channeling him, but I'm going to try. So one of my favorite things about this new resurgence of X-Men, of the what we have now, is sassy Sinister. I love Mr. Sinister. I was not a Mr. Sinister fan before this. He was cool, but he was an aspect of the X-Men. But when the Hickman stuff came out and they made Sinister into this, just really just like Scar from The Lion King, right? Like he's a little bit of the gay villain, but he's also your uncle, and he's all like you got to deal with him. He's going to be at the reunion. He's also the cool one that's going to take you out to the club later. But sassy Sinister is amazing. So when I saw that they were doing he's not getting his own book per se. The X-Men line is doing a Sins of Sinister series, but it's going to be found in it's intermingled in other books. It's like a little small crossover event. So the first one that I'm going to talk about today is called Sins of Sinister, #1, as is being displayed. But like the second issue is going to be in a book called Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants, Nightcrawlers #1. My favorite title of anything, Immoral X-Men, is going to be it's going to be you're muted, Bill. Sorry.
So this is basically a series of one shots that's going to encompass this event.
It makes
Cover's gorgeous.
So I will say the Immoral X-Men is you get 3. There's 3 there's 3 different books. So it's Immoral X-Men 1, 2, and 3. But it's the only one that's not a one shot, which is interesting, but also what a great title. To follow after the Immortal X-Men. Fantastic title. So the cool thing about this book is it really does play off of what we have kind of seen going on with Sinister in the main line. You have seen him, he's got this little pocket universe that he steps into, and he's got something called a Moira machine where he's working to he's got a Moira machine where he's working to corrupt the genetic line and do all kinds of weird stuff because he is still Mr. Sinister.
Oh my God. I can see him with the naming procedure.
Yep.
Darling.
Yes, so 100. And inside the Moira machine.
Nothing else we can call it.
Inside the Moira machine, he's got his mutant pets. Like he's got Cyclops cat. It's a cat with Cyclops' eye beams and a Mr. Sinister diamond. And it's kind of like Brian's cat. It's one of the hairless cats. He also has a tortoise. It's a Galapagos Sinister tortoise. It's great. So he steps in that to do all his machinations, and he's got all the evil things happening. This plays off of that, and we got this book. It's written by Kieran Gillen, who's killing it, does a great job. Most of the art in this book is by Lucas Wernick, who is also doing a fantastic job. I like Lucas. He's not an artist that I've ever been like, oh, this is the next hot shit, but he's really good at what he does. And I will say that, he's doing a great job about channeling previous X-Men artists with the kind of Krakoa style. So like dudes like Pepe Larraz, he is able to kind of bring that talent that they have with the very visual aspect of the vines with the embedded like pinks and stuff like that. He does a really good job playing that. But also neat in this is there are a series of single pages done by artists, and they're basically pinups, but they're done by artists like Jeff Shaw, Marco Cicchetto, Juan Jose Rip does a page, David Baldion, you got Travel Foreman, Carlos Gomez, Federico Vincenti, David Lopez, Josh Cassara, which is outstanding, and Stefano Caselli. So we got some heavy talent bringing their abilities to this book to give us a look at what's happening. So the cool thing about what's happening, this is exactly what I was talking about. Like this is an homage to the first X-Men, like when they're first breaking out of the shells, showing Sinister as the savior. Also, if I had powers, this would 100% be me. Little hot twunks breaking out of shells and worshiping me. I think that's a great idea. I don't see why people think he's the bad guy. So Sinister is as Sinister does, right? Like he is at the end of the day, he's a tyrant. He's trying to make things work in his favor. He's Machiavellian, and he's all about himself. He's a narcissist, but in funny ways. This book starts off 10 years in the future, right? So 10 years in the future, Sinister has done bad things. I'm using air quotes for our friends at home, and the ex-council is throwing him into the pit. He has sinned against Krakoa, and he cannot be allowed to walk free anymore. They don't tell you what he did, but Xavier we decided to toss him in the pit, which has been used for people like Sabretooth. It's where you stick the really bad guys so they can never get out again. So when all this is happening, each of the Quiet Council breaks off on their own, and they start revealing all of them at this point, again, 10 years in the future, have the Sinister Diamond. The long story short, and I'll let you guys go read it, but Sinister did some really genetic psychopath stuff, like lace all of the mutant genes when they die and come back with a little bit of him, just a little bit. He's inside us all. And so when they come back, there is a genetic taint, and Sinister is able to take it over. So essentially, everybody is Sinister now. Sinister is all of the X-Men. He's all of us. And this, as you can imagine, produces some really weird things and moves the X-Men in some crazy directions. But how did this happen? How do you go about doing it? It jumps back to 1 year. So we got a little bit of a time hop here, 1 year in the future. And what we have is J. Jonah Jameson and some other folks that we have seen before, who keep secrets and die, talking. And one of the things that it's Ben, who works for Jonah, and so one of the things he does is he has a serum shot and he hits Jonah with it, and it's supposed to show if you've been tainted by this X gene, because one of the things that they're talking about is how can we make sure that we pass on the gifts of Krakoa, like resurrection, to mankind, to humans. And so they start lacing humans with this X gene, right? Just a little bit of it. Everybody's going to be a mutant now. It's also all laced with Sinister. So this is how he gains his prominence and his power. 10 years back in the future, his plot and his plan really takes hold. He is able to convince everybody to do just terrible things. Long story short, he destroys Krakoa. And again, we're going to see this change, right? Like this is set up to where this is meant to change, as is much of X-Men, right? But lasers from the sky destroys Krakoa, which leads the world to launch attack. They blame it on Orcus. So the Avengers launch into it. Thor, all of these guys do these things where they come in there and they attack Orcus and they unite the planet around the mutants. And Captain America is like, you know what? I need to be a guiding figure on this for this whole resurrection thing. Let you lace me with the X gene. So now we have Sinister, Cap, and then craziness ensues from there. It's a super fun book. I love the look into the future. I love the kind of the Machiavellian, just puppet master aspects of Sinister. Super fun. His quips and quirks are amazing. The pinups in this book are insane. Just it shows how they morph and you have these mutates of the mutants in the future. That we saw set up in the original Hoxpox series, where they were the chimeras and stuff like that. I mean, you get like Colossus Beast. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I'll show you that. Also, I'm mad at this page. You didn't have to do that to me. That was uncalled for. You did not have to kill Wanda again. Scarlet Witch fans don't deserve that. But I really enjoyed this book. Kieran Gillen nails it. He nails the voice. His plotting is really well. When you're telling a story like this, you have to have the web, and he has the web. He knows how to spin it. So really looking forward to this little ride. I'm going to be picking up all of these books, including Immoral X-Men, which that title is awesome.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Wanda,
it needs to be just about.
All I can see with that, what you showed is, Wanda, you have failed this universe.
She gets no respect. Gets no respect.
Yeah. Never.
So, that's my book. Pick up Sins of Sinister. It's fun stuff.
Nice. All right, Steve, over to you. What do you got?
Well, of course, you guys have a DC book. That's a huge legacy, a huge continuation of a legacy. We've got an X-Men book that branches off, for Marvel, branches off into the next big storyline for X-Men. What do I have? Image. I have an Image book. Now, Image doesn't always have a big connected universe, but they have been cultivating one the past couple of years with Radiant Black and the various other books, Radiant Red, Radiant Pink, Dead Lucky, and the newest one, Inferno Girl Red. And I have a better look of the cover here, a better shot of the cover.
Nice.
It's gorgeous, for one, but there's an interesting sort of history to this book. So this actually started as a Kickstarter. So Kickstarter, the creators of the book, Erica Durso and Matt Groom, wanted to put out a great story that combines tokusatsu, Japanese sort of, kind of like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, that kind of style of transformable fighting heroes, and combine it with sort of American style superheroes, and just to have this great smash up there. Also a little bit of Magical Girl in there with transformations. And they connected it very, very early on with Kyle Higgins, who was working on his Radiant Black series. And in fact, in the first issue, I had to go back and look at this. In the first issue, there is a sort of an ad for Inferno Girl Red back in the first issue of Radiant Black. And they also had a very quick team up with Inferno Girl Red showing up in the big crossover last year, Supermassive, which was kind of like almost like a showcase episode issue, one shot where Radiant Black meets up with other other heroes in this expanded Supermassive universe that they're creating. Rogue Sun off there on the right hand side, and of course Inferno Girl Red. This book itself is part 1 of 3 parts for book 1 of Inferno Girl Red. Now, if you did back the Kickstarter, which started back in 2021, you will be getting the entire book 1 for all parts, 1, 2, and 3. But if you're buying in single issues like me, I did not back the Kickstarter originally because I totally missed it. You'll be able to read it in the next 3 months. And so, what is this about? Well, basically, it is about a girl and her mother who are on their way to Apex City to move back. Their mother, Anna, had been a reporter there several years prior, and was also a sort of a semi sidekick of Inferno Girl Red, who is the local superhero. And Cassia, who is the daughter, she's just been accepted back into the prestigious Helix Academy in Apex City. And so her mother is moving back with their daughter so that she can have this opportunity to be in school. Now, it's been years since the mother's been back. She kind of got a little bit blacklisted from the city because she was she was a reporter, and she would constantly talk about the exploits of Inferno Girl Red that officially the city denied existed. Even though there was very clearly, a superpowered magical girl, tokusatsu type hero, like an Ultraman running around the city, smashing up bad guys. The city denied, that she existed. And of course, the reporter who was reporting on her was laughed out like a joke and left the city. The daughter, of course, very intelligent, got a full ride scholarship for the Helix Academy that's run by this very intelligent, extremely wealthy Dr. Cairo, who is taking a very personal approach to these students who are all sort of top of their class, learning how to better understand the power of belief, which is very important in this book. The idea of belief as something that's very powerful and very strong, and provides a lot of push for improving the future, and also protecting oneself and bettering in mankind. Of course, you can't have a book like this without a crazy something evil happening. And of course, halfway through, the entire city is plucked up and teleported into another dimension. And it's now being overrun by these weird shadow beasts. Cassia is, of course, shocked by this, but also more shocked by the fact that she's been given this bracelet that has attached itself to her arm and allows her to transform into Inferno Girl Red. So now she is the new Inferno Girl Red. Has no idea how or why or what she's going to do with this. But her mother, of course, knows exactly what to do because, again, she was kind of the sidekick. So she helps her daughter to defeat her first monster. Now, obviously, this is just the first part of 3, and they do have several other story arcs planned after this. But if you love Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, if you love magical girl transformation stuff like Sailor Moon, if you like, this kind of storytelling, I totally recommend to pick up Inferno Red. And the art by Erica Durso is just, it's gorgeous. Just really, really beautiful. The colors are insane. Totally recommend it. Image is putting it out. But again, if you had the Kickstarter, you'll be able to get the entire first volume all in one go.
Those outfits have a strong Gatchaman vibe.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. That style, absolutely. Yeah, any of the tokusatsu stuff. So you got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers or Power Rangers there. You've got Ultraman a little bit. You've got a little bit of a Gatchaman with that sort of like streamlined element.
Was it Higgins that did the Ultraman book not too long ago?
I believe he
the
did.
recent one.
Yeah, I believe he did. I believe he did.
He loves this genre. Like absolutely adores it. And
it's easy to see all of these creators sort of finding each other and combining their powers to create this sort of supermassive, sub-connected universe within it.
Nice.
So, Matt, who's also in this book. So yeah, I totally recommend it. It's a lot of fun, and for 3 parts for the first series or first miniseries, it's pretty easy to pick up and read. So
very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we are up against the clock here, so we got to start wrapping this show up. And when we wrap the Comic Book Bears podcast episodes up, we have one segment followed by a second segment. We first show off something, and the second we recommend something. So first, we're going to get to our Geek Gets. Steve, do you have a Geek Get this week?
I do have a Geek Get, and this one, is again a Kickstarter that I supported kind of earlier last year. It took a while to get everything in because, of course, they had some issues with the printers with last year's hurricane. But this is the Kickstarter for Stabity Bunny Volume 2, which is the complete final Stabity Bunny volume that has all the additional issues after issue 5. And so I actually was able to get Volume 1 out of the Kickstarter, which this is yet another copy, so I've got one to gift now. The Volume 2, of course, and also it came with several other extras. So the Stabity Bunny Emmett's story, which we've talked about.
That's a beautiful variant cover for that.
Oh, yes, it is. A little bit easier to see this way.
Almost like an old Tales to Astonish or Tales of Suspense cover, for people who can't see it.
With a wrench instead of Thor's hammer. And then also a book that was put out by Scout's sort of all ages series called Create a Comic as well. So I got a copy of that. So it's just really cool. I was so excited to get it in the mail yesterday, and I immediately texted Rich Rivera. I was nice. But yeah, that was my get.
Okay, over to Caleb. I already know what this is, and I'm jealous. So,
yeah, I'm gonna need some assistance from Steve again on this one. So, last week I made a joke, a playoff of one of my favorite bands is Judas Priest. I'm also a huge OA nerd. I had the opportunity to do a commission a piece of art from Mr. Andrew Buck, aka @DeathKit on the Instagrams. And when I was talking to him, I was just like, hey, I saw this piece that you had done that was actually the Archies. And I think you do a good music style. It's really cool. Go check out his Instagram. It's fun.
Okay.
And I was like, what if
not for me others? Yeah. Wow.
Dude, it's really cool. But I was talking to him and I was like, I'd love to get a commission by you. What are your rates? He told me. I was like, oh, dude, that's great. He's like, yeah, what do you got in mind? And I said, how would you feel about doing something with Judas Priest? I said, I've never done a band commission before. All my stuff has always been comics. He's like, dude, Rob Halford's one of my fashion icons. I'm going to kill this for you. And I said, hey, do it. Give it to me. And he absolutely did. No lies were told that day. So Steve, if you will be a dear and throw it up, I got this amazing commission. It is now in my collection. It is going to be framed. It will hang lovingly on my wall. I did not know what I was going to get. And when I unrolled this, my jaw hit the floor. I squealed. I screamed. I immediately I don't even know how to react. This is insane. Like, this is one of the best. I love all my art, right? I love my art collection. I look at it constantly. I break out my Atolas or whatever they're called and look at the stuff all the time. This I cannot quit looking at. It is everything I want it to be. It distills the band amazingly. To have the entire band in there, like KK is ripping a V. I mean, like it's everything I want. So I am thrilled. Go check out this man's page when his commission list is open. Get something. It doesn't matter if you.
He captures this band so well, like, you know, with Glenn with his hands impossibly down the fretboard.
Yep.
You know, you got Ian's tummy in there. I mean, it's just perfect.
Yep.
It's absolutely perfect.
Everything about it wins.
As you can tell, as I'm describing it, Judas Priest are one of my favorite bands too.
Yeah.
So
Hellbent. I mean, the fact that he put Hellbent for Leather up at the top. Rob has got his. He's a younger version of Rob. I didn't tell him what era I wanted. I said, pick, just go for it.
This is like Unleashed in the East.
Yeah.
Rob.
Decked out in the hat with the riding crop. It just and Andrew does this really cool stuff with almost day glow. Like it looks like a blacklight poster. It's not. I don't know. To be fair, I don't have a blacklight in my house, so I need to John come down.
John. We need John's expertise here.
Yeah.
Like if this is blacklight capable, because this definitely looks like something that would be on his wall.
Beautiful pinks and oranges, and it glows without a black light. So I'm extremely excited. Also, just while we're on the topic, got the 40th anniversary of version of British Steel and vinyl in this week. So I now own that too. So which is my second copy of British Steel, but I don't appreciate your judgment. So leave me alone. My money, I'll spend it the way I want to.
It's a picture disc. It's not a double dip.
Thank you. That my attorney, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, that's my geek get for the week. It's pretty.
Okay, well,
agreed.
Pretty and music oriented goes into my geek get. I have to thank Dr. Wonder's Comics and Collectibles, which is the store that's just a town over from me. You've seen me at various points show some of the books that I've gotten from their auctions. Great people there. And I have an agreement with them that as Mego product comes into the store, that they'll let me know what it is before it goes out to other people. And they said, Bill, there's a Mego product here, but it's not one of your superhero figures. So we just want to know if you would still be interested. And I saw it, and I had to bring her home. So again, pretty and music oriented, but not what Caleb's talking about. So now from the 70s, ladies and gentlemen, Mego Cher. Hi, bitch. This is the box that this came in. Can you go back to there? Yeah, move it, bitch. So we have the original Cher box. She's in a bathing suit here. What I have here, though, is, according to my friend, a Bob Mackie design gown. So he has verified that. I do have a very beat up version of the box with it, though. Cher, do you enjoy your new home? Sucks, bitch. So. You just stay there. Okay. There we go. So she's gonna hang out. At least her head's gonna hang out up there. Let me see if I can get that. It's just not working. I now have a Mego doll of Cher from 1976.
That's awesome.
And it's mine. Yeah, and I was not anticipating getting anything like that, and I basically got it for nothing, I have to say. Basically got it for nothing. These usually go, even naked, they go for about $35. She's got a good home.
No, all you need is a Sunny doll, and you can sing bang the
and
drum.
Our friend Tito does have a Sunny doll. So at some point when he comes over to go over to thing, we're going to bring them together. And I have not stopped singing Cher songs since then. Free, like everything going through my head.
What's your favorite Cher song?
My favorite Cher song is probably Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves.
Mine too. Yes.
She was very good with story songs. And another thing about Cher,
Dark Lady also.
Dark Lady, and naturally Half Breed. There's a couple of others. Even Take Me Home to an extent, because it's basically about a one night stand. From a musician standpoint, Cher is always in perfect pitch.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to her material, if you listen to her singing, you can fault her for not having the pipes as some other singers, but she is always in perfect pitch on those records. So the other half's a big fan. So we've ended up seeing her 3 times.
Wow.
So bad.
And I think
which farewell tour?
The first one was the farewell tour. and the second one was the Farewell Tour Didn't Stick, and the third one was, well, I was in an ABBA movie, I made an ABBA album, I may as well capitalize on it. So yeah, they all had different timbers, but if you have the opportunity to see her live, and since she's going to live forever, you're going to have some opportunities there. Do it.
Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves is one of those songs I want to make a metal cover of one day if I ever get into a metal band.
All right, we're going to move on to our last segment. And when we wrap an episode of the Comic Book Bears podcast up, we do so with a segment called the Woofs of the Week segment. In the bear community, if you find a fella attractive, you woof at him. And we do something very similar here where we spotlight something which may be a comic book, but it also may be a film or a TV program, maybe even a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener, may be interested in sampling. I'll start, as I always do, with Steve. Steve, what is your woof of the week?
Well, my woof of the week is a TV show, but it is a comic adjacent TV show. It's not based on a comic book, but it posits a world where everybody has superpowers. Basically, the villain's endgame from The Incredibles 2, or actually I think it was the first one. One of them. But basically, I think the first Incredibles. But in this one, everybody gets superpowers as soon as they turn 18, except for the main character, who is 25 and she still hasn't gotten her power. And that is the new Hulu series, Extraordinary, which just released this week. And all 8 episodes are available to stream. It's hilarious. Wonderful cast, wonderful writing. It's absolutely hilarious. There's enough emotion in the series, and we lost Bill right now, to kind of keep you coming back through all the laughter, because there's a lot to laugh about in this great series. But totally recommend it if you have a chance to watch it. If you have Hulu, definitely give it a chance. You're going to really love it.
Very cool. Well, I'll jump in here and go next. So I really need to watch that. I've seen it. Like, that may be on our next episode or next thing to watch.
It's easy to binge. I did all 8.
My wolf of the week goes out to it. So it's not a specific wolf of the week. It actually goes out to a group of people, and kind of a thing that's going on. So you guys know I live in Arkansas, not the most gay friendly state. We're in the middle of a legislative session right now. We expected bad things to happen, and they are. So my wolf of the week goes out to everybody, whether you're in the legislature or you're just a citizen who went to stand up for your rights, who have boycotted, who have testified, who have thrown a fit about this anti-gay legislation that is permeating our legislature right now. They are trying to make it essentially. They are trying to make drag performances be listed as an adult activity. They're equating it to stripping, whether you're not in whether you're in a full length gown, where you're actually showing, you're wearing a more modest outfit than what our governor has worn on her last couple press conferences, which is the true irony there. Or what they're trying to make it illegal for kids to be able to do that in an effort to make sure that they can't do things like story time with drag queens at libraries and stuff. They're also, of course, cribbing on the very well known and now more common bathroom bans for trans kids. And so, it sucks. It's terrible. Unfortunately, they're likely to pass. They're unconstitutional. If they want to write a blank check to the ACLU, they're doing a really good job. But shout out and big wolf to everyone who has railed against that machine, who has stood up, be it our legislatures, the ones that have scruples and have an understanding, and the people the trans men and women and the drag queens that walked into our state's capitol in a full-length gown and a headdress and heels to Jesus, that just threw a fit and spoke eloquently about who they are in their art. Shout out and wolf to you. You guys are amazing. You women are amazing. You non-binary folks are amazing. And you've got folks that we're not going to quit fighting. So that's my wolf. Wolf, not wolf. I know words.
Wolf of the week. Excellent. No, that's excellent. That's a great point, because we are seeing that again. A lot of what was promised in the campaign in 2022 in those state legislatures and those governorships, they're now pushing it through, and it's the same roadmap. They basically just cribbed each other's notes, copy and paste the legislation from from state to state based on whatever think tank came up with the template.
Okay, I guess that comes down to me there. So my woof of the week is The Pez Outlaw, which is a movie that's currently streaming on Netflix, and apparently just got word today that this is the number 2 movie on Netflix. So gotten some notoriety since it was released last week. And it's part documentary, part docudrama in a sense. And it tells the story of Steve Glue, that's Glew, who is a machinist out in Michigan. And he somehow got very involved with the Pez world, the Pez collecting world. Through the film, we discover that in the 90s, Pez USA and the parent company Prez out in Europe basically acted very independently, and this provided inroads for certain collecting opportunities that otherwise wouldn't have existed. And he basically becomes a smuggler of Pez dispensers with the fall of the Iron Curtain, and certain factories had excesses that were highly collectible in the States, unavailable in the States, and he had access to them. And it plays in some ways like a spy thriller. Some of the reenactments are just hysterical when you consider what he's actually smuggling are candy dispensers and not weapons or bomb plans. It's an amazing group of characters. It's an underdog story. And also, if you're a collector of any kind, this is the kind of movie you have to see, because it does reaffirm, we all have this weird gene in us, and having that is not so bad. And it's just a wonderful misfit underdog story. Not everything goes well for him, but in the end, you do get a sense that he is very happy to have the tag of the Pez Outlaw. And I highly, highly recommend it. So, and then we also have an additional woof this time. And so, I don't know, Caleb, do you want to take the lead on this, or?
Yeah, I sure can. So for those of you who are listening and not watching, and for those of you who are watching, you ought to be well acquainted with our dear, dear friend, Wendy Freeman from Chicago. She's an amazing, not only an amazing person, but an amazing friend. Was a longtime podcaster. We know her from way back. We talk to her every day. She is, she lives in our heart. Wendy, unfortunately, found out and was diagnosed with breast cancer that we found out. Luckily, I will say, if there is a luckily, it was stage 1. They caught it very early, and they are able to treat it in a way that's going to allow her to continue to live a just normal functioning life. She, if you follow her on Facebook, she has shown, she's got a picture of her port. She's doing okay, and they caught it very early. So it is a very positive diagnosis as far as what it will end up being. But most of Wendy's social life involves MMA and Muay Thai. So she's not going to be able to do a lot of that. She's going to have to undergo some treatments. It's going to kind of put her out of it. Wendy works with her hands and stuff. She makes a living by being active. And so there's a lot of stuff that she's just going to have to not be able to do. She's going to be very tired. If anybody who's undergone these kind of treatments or seen somebody undergo these kind of treatments know. So one of the few things that Wendy has asked for, and she is not somebody who asks much of herself. She would rather do for others. I mean, seriously, I know we are not just blowing smoke. It is not a cliche. She would rather do for somebody else than ask of anything for herself. But she was like, you know what? It would be nice to have dinner every once in a while, and not have to cook, and not like when I'm tired. So she has organized a meal train, or she has asked people to donate to a meal train. Which Bill has put up the contact info. What this does is it allows you to, and I'm not exactly sure how it works, but it allows you to donate money and ensure that a meal is brought to her and is delivered to her in some sense. Yeah. Bill, I think you probably know more about the meal train.
Yeah, from what I understand, because this is the first I ever heard of this when she provided this. But Meal Train provides funds for meals, and it also provides other mechanisms. So if you want to donate a Grubhub card to her, you can do those. You can do that through this campaign. The thing with Wendy, as you said, she's a very social, very active creature, and the thought of her being stuck at home, I think that's probably, on top of the health concerns that she has, that's probably going to drive her really crazy. Mm-hmm. So this is a mechanism of kind of making sure that she knows other people are out there. and are thinking about her. She already blew through the initial request and try to get that up there and make it up to like 4 times the request.
Yeah.
If you go through our archives, Wendy's appeared on the show in the past. She's the closest thing we have to a Comic Book Bears Goldilocks, and we love her. And we know she's going to get through this, but we also want to make whatever heavy loads she's having over the next few weeks and months a little bit lighter. So please, please, please donate to this, because she's a wonderful person, and the world will be incredibly dark without her, and you will be richer for it if you do. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And I've also placed the link, and for those of you who are streaming in. And in the YouTube channels, the link is available there as well.
And very simply, if you can read it here, or if you're listening, it's mealtrain.com. There's a /trains and then her specific account. But if you just go to mealtrain.com, look for Wendy Freeman, Wendy with an I.
WENDIFREEMAN. Again, like, she's family. She's family not only for us, but it goes way back. When we were talking to Steve Bryant earlier, he mentioned 11 O'Clock Comics. He mentioned Comic Geek Speak. She goes back that far with a whole lot of people. She is beloved and very dear. And I, when she told Bill and I what was going on, my heart shattered. I know Bill's did as well. But when the prognosis came out to be as good as it kind of could be, very excited about that. And just Wendy, you are good at kicking ass, and we know you're going to continue to kick ass. So y'all throw some skrill at her and get her some food.
All right. Well, we're wrapping this one up. Again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on the Twitter and the Tumblr and the Instagram as Comic Book Bears. You can find us on the Facebook as Comic Book Bears Podcast. You can download our episodes through Apple Podcasts, listen to us through Stitcher Radio, and many of the other podcatching platforms. If you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. So until next time, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
And I'm Cher, bitch. Oh. If you're listening, you're going to hear a woof and an explosion. We'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
Woof.